Hello, and welcome to another episode of Confessions of a Dog Trainer. So happy you're here. It might seem silly or like I'm just saying this to say it, but I'm so grateful that you are here listening. I've been getting so many messages from you over on Instagram saying that you are enjoying the podcast and getting a lot out of it. I know when I first started this, I wanted this to be a for e-collar training to be a really big topic. Might not be in every single episode, but I have a feeling it will be because I just think uh, it's one such a misunderstood tool. I share so much about it. Our resources are very heavy e-collar focused for a lot of reasons. I just when I first got into training with my dog Theo, who was our problem child, and he's the reason I'm a dog trainer. I stumbled upon e-collar training. It was life changing. And I was like, why doesn't anyone else know about this? And then over the past 6 years, I've learned more and more about e-collar training from working with dogs. I guess, self-taught, I guess you could say. Um, and then from talking with trainer friends and what goes on behind the scenes, what trainers are doing in a very good way that could be helpful for owners, but it's not being talked about. And so I kind of want to, what's the saying, gatekeeping. I don't want to be a gatekeeper of e-collar training. I just want to share it all with you. And I'm hopeful that, when we talk about it in this podcast, you can I don't know, try the things that I talk about and see how it works. I've been getting some really great feedback that a lot of you are feeling more confident with dialing up on the e-collar for certain situations. I do think that that is the number one thing that holds a lot of owners back from seeing progress with their dogs, especially when it comes to things like barking, reactivity, popping off of place, I don't know, recall, stuff like that. Dialing up is the number one thing that makes the biggest difference. So I'm so happy to hear that. Today's episode, well, first, let's start with a little hello to my dad in memory of him. I've got my cup of Joe. I'll wait for you to get yours. It's cold coffee. So first, okay, I'm going to get into what this podcast is all about. I think it's going to be really helpful for you. I wanted to mention something. I'm about to go on a road trip with my mom to Georgia to visit family, my brother, sister-in-law, and my niece and nephew, which I'm very excited about. I am not someone that likes staying at other people's houses. I am a creature of habit. I love my daily routines. I love them so much. I will uh, not go hang out with people, even though I'm not like getting asked to hang out with friends all the time anymore, which is nice. There was a time in my 20s when all I wanted to do was stay home, but I felt like a total loser if I did. And now I don't. I just want to be in my cozy home, go to bed early, wake up early, all the things. So going and staying at their house, which I'm sure is lovely, but I'm already thinking about, am I going to sleep good there? Because I really love sleeping good. That's a big priority for me. And am I going to be able to fall asleep? Is everyone going to stay up later than me? Um, and I feel like I want to be super easy breezy and not care about these things and just be like, whatever, it'll be fine. But that's not how my personality is. I really love knowing how things are going to go. So anyway, but I'm excited to do a road trip with my mom. It's about a 7-hour drive, and I think it'll be really good for us. Um, so I have a break from board and train dogs, and I wanted to say this to anyone really, but fellow trainers, do not write things down unless you want them to happen. I did a book club with two of my trainer friends. I think it was a year ago, February, January, around there. And we read Fire Starter Sessions. Highly recommend. Do you see all these little, like, aren't these so fun, the little tabbies that I have? This book can change your life if you let it. There's exercises at the end of every chapter. So again, if those of you who can't see the video, the Fire Starter Sessions, it's an orange book and it's just so good. At the end of each chapter, though, there's an exercise that you do. That was kind of the fun part. We'd read it, come get together, and then go over our answers. And there's one part in there I remember I wrote down where it's like, how do you want to feel? So when they talk about goals, it's really about how do you want to feel, or what does your ideal day look like, instead of like a very specific goal. And so one of the things is to write down like your dream day. And part of my dream day, I know I wrote down, I want to have one board and train a month. Now, this is way different than it was when I first got into training. I got into training to be a board and train trainer. I tried one-on-one sessions, didn't like it. I don't like the pressure of it. I like having more time to figure things out with dogs. And I really thought I wanted a packed schedule and I wanted a lot of dogs. And I really thought that my waiting list was a sign of my success. And I actually struggled a lot with that. And my friends in this book club helped me with that. When I said, I didn't have a ton of dogs on my wait list, I felt really self conscious of that. That people would find out and think, oh, you're not a real dog trainer if you don't have a bunch of dogs on your waiting list. And they were like, we don't want dogs on our waiting list because they get very busy. And they were like, we would love to not have to do that. And so for me, I wrote down I wanted to be more of a virtual dog trainer, and it's kind of happened where I really believe that if you write stuff down, especially your goals and your dreams for yourself, it like sticks in your head and somehow it manifests in your life without you even realizing it. It's like you work towards it without even remembering, oh my gosh, yeah, this is my goal. I'm taking these steps towards it. It's like they just show up in your life. Like this podcast, I think this is a great way for me to help you virtually, in addition to our ebook, e-guide resources. And it kind of moves me in that direction. And I have like one board and train a month. Next month, I have two from the same home. So basically one. Um, anyway, I think I'm starting to live out that dream that I had for my business and how I wanted it to look. And it's changed a lot over the years. So, one, your dreams can change. And I really felt self-conscious about that at first. But once I got over that, I was like, no, this is really what I want. I want to create more virtual stuff. I really enjoy the creativity of content. I'm excited about the podcast now. I didn't really think about that when I wrote this goal down. Anyway, just wanted to share that little peek inside what's going on with me. And I'm grateful to have time off so I can do this road trip. And yeah. Okay. So let's dive into the episode. So I wanted to talk about um, one, I think the biggest thing that makes the biggest difference in how the e-collar training process can look with a dog. And then I'm going to tell you the top three things I think you should do if you are brand new to e-collar work. So even those of you who have gotten into e-collar work, maybe you got away and you're doing like a reset or something, these three things can be really applicable to you as well. Okay, so the first thing, the number one thing I think that makes the biggest difference, this is with my experience the past 6 years working closely with dogs through the board and train program, is a dog's personality. So I see this all the time where I'll get a dog in who, like the last dog I had, the last two actually, Layla and June. Super sweet dogs, both in for different things. Layla was highly reactive. You can go and watch her highlight on Instagram if you want to see me talking about e-collar stuff with a reactive dog. I also did an episode specifically about her. I think it was the one when the board and train fails. So her board and train didn't fail, but it was more talking about some past experiences and what was going on and what made the biggest difference with her during the board and train. But so June and Layla, they were both super sweet dogs. So when I'm saying personality, I've worked with some dogs who they don't want to listen to anything you say. I would call them pushy. So when you're first working with your dog, so I'm saying this for any of you who are working with your dog and you start e-collar training and it can look different for you because your dog's personality is so different. So it could be that your dog is much more pushy. It could be that your dog is much sweeter and laid back. Like June and Layla, they were both really open to receiving feedback from me. So it could look like introducing place. That could be one very simple thing where it's like, let's go, and like giving leash guidance, and they're like happy to come with you and get on place. Maybe they might be a little bit nervous at first, but they get on. Where you get another dog in who is like pretty much giving you the middle finger. Now, to some of you, this will seem very weird, a weird thing to say, because even if your personal dog is pushy, many of you will not look at them when they're giving you these pushy moments and think they're giving you the middle finger. It's just, well, that's George. He's just quirky. Where a trainer can see this and say, okay, this is going to look a little different. This dog is just really, really pushy, and does not want to take any feedback. And I think this is something I learned. It was probably like my second year of being a board and train trainer, where I thought when I first got into it, I was like doe eyes, super excited. All dogs are sweet and great, and all dogs will, training will look the same for all of them. I mean, I came from a pet sitting, dog walking background where my job was to baby dogs. My job was to, uh, yeah, just like play with them and send pictures, which I still do. I love sending pictures to owners for the board and train, but it really, I wasn't working through problems. It was just, look at how much fun your dog is having. Where now with training, it's just different because you're working through problem behaviors usually. And so when you start to address things, like it could be as simple as, I'm working with a dog who does not want to get on place. And usually a great trick to teaching place, if your dog gives you pushback, and it could be that they're nervous about it, or, they are just like, I'm not listening to anything you say. If you flip the place cot over, because the ones that we use, they're a little bit above the ground, they're raised cots. So if you look on Amazon, dog beds, raised dog beds is what I would search for if you're looking for one. But I would flip it over, have the dog walk on it, and usually they're really good when you do that, and then flip it back over after a couple of times, and then it's easier for them to get on. But how this process looks, if a dog is, it's just like kind of, and this is where I think experience as a trainer makes all the difference. So it wasn't until I think my second year when I got a dog in who, he was like a gray silver lab looking dog, but he was mixed with something. He had an underbite, and he was a very dominant personality. Now at the time, I just was like, oh, he's just a little bit more pushy. And I'll never forget, this was when we had our um, kennel room inside our home, which now we have it in an attached room to our garage, which is life changing, because it's really hard to separate yourself from your business when it's in your home. Many of you trainers totally get this. There's ways to go about this and to disconnect. So if you want to know that, I can share that in a trainer mentor session episode if you'd like. But so it was in there, and I was trying to get him to go into his kennel. And most of his owner said he goes into the kennel, no problem. I didn't ask if anyone else has ever put her dog in the kennel. That is a question I now ask, because dogs can act differently with new people. Maybe they've never shown any aggressive tendencies, but all of a sudden someone new comes in, and the kennel can sometimes be a great place for a dog to show different sides of themselves, guarding, it could be growling. Had one, okay, I'm skipping, I'm going to come back to the gray dog, but I got one dog in who I ended up sending home day of. So this guy, I think, came an hour away, which isn't too bad, and told me some things about, well, he'll growl at people when I take him to, there was like a fair. And I was like, okay, but has he ever bitten anyone, like shown aggression towards anyone? No. So the thing I forgot to ask was, has anyone ever come in and let your dog out of the kennel or put him in the kennel? I forgot to ask this. Now I know, sometimes you learn, and luckily nothing terrible happened. But I remember I was working with this dog, and this is where, like, a trainer's instinct based on experience, it can really come into play and help with the process of when you're working with a dog. Um, and I remember I was working with this dog. He was a little black pitty, and I just got this weird feeling. I put the e-collar on. He was giving me some weird vibes. I really don't even know how to explain it. It's just like an intuitive thing, I think. And I think I've built that muscle, my intuitive dog trainer muscle, over the years, just based on experience and working with different temperaments. And I got a weird feeling. I was like, okay, well, let's just take a break. I'm going to put him in his kennel, and then we'll come back and try again. So put him in his kennel, no problem, close the door, come back about, I don't know, an hour later, 45 minutes later, and he is growling and wants to go after me when I get close to the kennel. Now, I have no desire to work with dogs like that. It is just not something I feel comfortable with. I just don't want to. I used to think I had to when I first got into training. Like it was, I think it was an ego thing. Like, well, I want to say I can work with all dogs. No, I do not want to. So I went and got close to the kennel, and I was like, oh my God, I can't, like, I don't think I could do this. I think if it was a smaller, tiny dog, to be totally honest, I could probably work through it. I don't know how. But with this little pitty, I just felt like it felt dangerous. And so I ended up calling because I had Bobby come in and I was like, what do you think? And he was like, well, I, yeah, this is not a dog I think you should probably work with. So I ended up calling the owner and had him come pick him up. And sure enough, he came into the kennel room and I think it was a girl, and she was super sweet with him, wiggling her tail. And that's just part of it. That's part of dogs have associations with their people. And then when someone new comes in, especially around the kennel, usually they can show a different side of themselves. So back to the gray dog, the lab mix. And I was trying to get him to go into his kennel and he started like bucking, and I say bucking like a horse. I don't know if you've ever seen horses buck where they're like, you know, front legs in the air. And that's what he did. And it really like startled me. It was my first experience with a dog who made me a little bit nervous. I had never experienced it. Bobby wasn't working at home at that time. So it was just me and the dog. And the thing that helped, because I kept trying and it just felt like, oh, this isn't working. Like, why won't he go in? And I did my usual thing where I put the leash in through the kennel and then kind of tether or like put it through the holes on the top of the kennel to pull backwards and give some leash guidance because he had a prong collar on. Usually a little bit of guidance helps and then the dog goes in and then you like release the leash pressure and you can kind of work through it that way. It was not working. So then what did help was putting a kennel in our living room and he went in no problem. So just, you can always reset sometimes just using a different kennel. I don't know why that has worked a couple of times with me with dogs who don't want to go into a certain kennel. It could be, it's just the first kennel you tried. I have no idea. So, but the rest of his time with me, looking back, there were moments that I could have addressed. And what I mean by this is maybe setting a firmer boundary. With the e-collar, I would say. So something like a dog who wants to rush through doorways. That is a perfect example of a dog who's being pushy and a great opportunity to set a clear boundary where with the levels on the e-collar, it's probably not at the working level. And usually when I do a something like this, when I'm first teaching the e-collar, using the e-collar at doorways is a helpful way to show a boundary. And so it's usually around their working level. I forget what dog I shared this with on Instagram, but it literally just looks like you walk up to the door, dog definitely walks through. So I tap on the e-collar. It's usually like 5 above the working level, maybe a little bit lower. All dogs are different. Some dogs are really sensitive. If you find that you do this at the working level with your dog and they're like, you don't see any difference, dial up just a little bit. So then I'll walk through, do it again when they start to go up to the doorway. So it could be, it's usually, we do it at our back porch doorway. I'll do it again. So the door is open, we walk up, and I really want the dog to learn that you don't rush through the doorway. So you stop, just a polite moment. And the e-collar just helps give a little clarity. It's just like, hey. And it's also a great way to teach the e-collar pressure and what it means. So with most dogs, they start to get it, like maybe 5, 10 above the working level, usually pretty close to the working level. Because it's just, they start to feel it and then they're like, oh, okay, that's a boundary. And I stop there. With this dog, I think his name was Blue. I didn't do that kind of an exercise, but he would have benefited from it. But I think there were a lot of moments where he was just really pushy with me. I remember one time when I was taking pictures for Instagram to try to be like, lifestyle pictures of a dog trainer. And I was, I don't know why I was doing this, but I was reading a cookbook and I had my camera on a self timer. So I called him up to me and he put his front paws on me and he was like staring at me like this. And I was looking at my cookbook. So it was like hi, this is so cute. But now looking back, that was a moment where he was not being super dominant, but kind of, he was just a pushy personality. And that is a little small moment. It's just kind of like if you are working with your dog and your dog is really pushy with you on the walk. And um, let's say you're inside and you're eating at your couch, you're eating your food, and your dog comes over and they just put their paw on you. To me, that's a pushy movement. Or to you, you might look at it like, oh, that's just I don't know why I keep thinking George. That's just George being George. But if you're struggling in other areas with your dog, that's a little moment where I would probably put the dog on place because you can give some guidance. It's not necessarily the paw on you, it's more like it's a little pushy. And I think if we just kind of take this out of the equation, it might help. It's just like chipping away at that pushiness so your dog starts to take more direction from you instead of feeling like they need to take over the situation or like they can. So I think with the personality stuff, it's, and I hope that this makes sense, but one, I always like to remind you that this process will look different based on the dog in front of you. Another dog I had that I let's see. His name was Tyson. He was a okay, and I keep saying pitties. I love pitties. This is nothing against pitties, but he was a giant pitty, and I remember I took him out for a walk, and again, this goes with personality and just how it can kind of show up without you realizing it. Or if I get an intake form in, I really am not going to know what the dog's personality is like. If they're pushy, if they're more dominant, if they're sweet and laid back, if they're like excited to take direction, or if they're going to give me the middle finger. So Tyson was a mix of pushy, sweet, and just so much pent up energy that it could go somewhere unhealthy. So I remember I was walking with him at the time. Bobby had just started working with me, and he came out to with a camera to like document. We were trying to do before videos differently, and so we went out, and Tyson was known to be reactive. And all of a sudden, he starts to get so wound up that he starts to bite at the leash and go like this and just shake it, like with all of his body. And he was a big boy. And it made me nervous because I was like, oh my gosh, I know he hasn't bitten anyone before. Turns out he did snap at his owner, and she didn't tell me until later, but it's okay. It happens. And everything's turned out great with Tyson and his owner. She's a great owner. But it's just like the more you work with dogs and the more little moments or questions you miss, you make a mental note. And it's like, okay, I'm going to be sure to ask this next time. So when he started grabbing at the leash and like tugging it, using it as a tug toy, no concern about me holding the leash. And that's kind of common. A dog doesn't really care so much about me when they first meet me, but it was a little concerning. His eyes went black. And I was like, oh man, like, where could this energy go when I start e-collar training and maybe saying no to going through the doorway? Could he redirect on me or something like that? It's just, that could be a concern. So it ended up being totally fine, but he was pushy in different instances. His owner wanted me to do his nails. I tried, and again, his eyes went black, which is just like some dogs are more intense than others with certain things. And with him, I couldn't do it. It's just he needed to be muzzle trained. He wasn't. Um, so anyway, but all I think it's so easy for you to, I don't know, maybe watch trainers on Instagram and see, again, the highlight reel. It's just, it is what it is. I've mentioned this before where I try to share as much as possible, but I also am not going to, my priority is the owner I'm working with. And I'm not going to share anything that would embarrass them or make them feel bad, or I want to help you all as much as possible, but I'm always thinking about the owner I'm working with. So I'm not going to get on Instagram and be like, oh my gosh, this is so stressful. Man, this dog is just really making me crazy. I don't know, all realistic things of working with dogs. It's so funny. It just makes me think about when I was a dog walker, and there was another dog walker who was kind of, I guess, well known in a neighborhood close to us. It's like a bougie neighborhood. And I remember meeting her. Dog walkers are different, can be different. Now, I say this, no offense to anyone who is a dog walker, but they're just, you meet some pet sitters or dog walkers who are, it's like they have a cartoon personality. I don't know. It's just, this is how it used to feel to me. And so I met her and I was like, oh, hey, it's so nice to meet you. She was like, don't we have the best job in the whole world? And it was dead summer. I had two dogs I was walking, each pulling me in different directions. And I was like, I mean, yeah, it's pretty good. But I mean, sometimes it's not all that great. I don't know. And she was like, what? This is the best. And one, I'm sure any owner would be so happy to work with her. Two, don't really trust someone who is just that uh, happy about everything. I don't know. Maybe I'm a glass half full person, but I also like real conversations. I was excited to meet another dog walker, and I was like, oh, maybe we can just like, I don't know, commiserate a little bit. Like, I love the dogs that I worked with and walked, and but it's hot. Can we just talk about how hot it is? And like, I'd like a little AC or something. I don't know. So anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about this, but I think it's so easy to compare your dog to other dogs, and personality makes such a big difference. So that's just what I want you to remember. Personalities play a huge part into the dog training process and what it looks like. It can also make a big difference with the levels that you use. Some dogs are much more sensitive than others. The e-collar I recommend using, and many of you know this, but just in case you don't, it has 100 levels, the mini educator, and then the micro mini educator, which is great for smaller dogs. Because it's like e-collar technology says that it's like a 20% difference in the stimulation between the micro and the mini. So if I'm working with a dog who is really laid back and I don't know, I think I just hear sometimes where other trainers tell owners to only use the working level or you shouldn't go 10 above the working level. And that's just not realistic. That's not what dog trainers are doing. And I think a lot of dog trainers make such great progress with dogs because we dial up in certain situations. I mean, the biggest difference I have seen so far for me as a dog trainer and why I share it with you, because I think you can totally do it. I'm not some, I mean, I have experience on my side, but I don't know. Dog trainers are not like magicians. I think that a lot of us do have instincts that maybe owners don't have because of our experience. But the biggest difference I have seen with e-collar training for me is levels when it comes to reactivity and how using higher levels to correct the actual reactivity can make the biggest difference. And I struggled with dogs, and then they would go and I mean, it was better than it was before, but owners would struggle with their dog's reactivity when they got home because I didn't know about this piece. Trainers weren't talking about it. And I think talking about higher levels on Instagram, it can totally be taken out of context. A lot of people are scared about it. I was at a certain time when Bobby was working with me and all of our income came from walking dog training. I was kind of terrified about the anti e-collar people coming after me and I don't know, leaving bad reviews or something, or um, worst case scenario, ruining my business. I don't know. It's very easy to get scared when you have a lot riding on the thing you're talking about. Where when he stopped working with me, I was like, got his own thing, his own business. I felt free again to just be honest and talk about things. And I know levels are the number one thing that can make the biggest difference for you with your dogs. Yes, Sadie. Just getting water. Um, okay, so, okay, all of that said, because I hope that that just shows you. Okay, I need to let Sadie out. Okay, so all of that said, I just want you to remember when you're following trainers online, there's things that you don't see. And that's one thing about this podcast. I really am excited to share more of that side. I feel like it's just a different way to talk about it. I can be more long form and explain myself instead of just doing it in 15-second increments on Instagram. But yeah, if you're struggling more than you think you should, or that was expected when you got into e-collar training, there's probably a reason for that. And it probably has something to do with your dog's personality. Temperament is another way to say it. And that can play a big role in how the process looks. If you have questions about that, feel free to message me on Instagram and let me know that you listened to this podcast. That helps me know that you have listened and you have some information about what I've talked about, and then I can try to help you the best I can. Okay, so something I wanted to talk about is if you are new to e-collar training, I want you to do these three things. These three things can make the biggest difference. One, prioritize place time after an active session. One of the biggest differences I've seen with dogs is when I prioritize place time multiple times a day with training dogs. So kennel time is also considered like quote unquote place time to me. But for those of you who, let's say you introduce the e-collar or you go for a walk and use the e-collar or recall, I want you to follow that up with place time because it's not necessarily e-collar training, but I find that it's just such a great routine to get into because so many of you are struggling with problem behaviors and you're missing the management piece. So, place is a great management routine to help you better manage your dog in all kinds of situations. So, whether it's you're struggling with reactivity in the home, you're struggling with pushy stuff while you're eating, your dog is jumping on the table, your dog is jumping on guests, whatever the thing is, you can always put your dog on place. That's a really great way to manage your dog in those situations. Am I so annoying by saying managing like 25 times? It's just, I know it's not a super glamorous way to describe it, but it's so, so helpful. And the more that you incorporate it, the easier it gets. Okay. Less is more. This is number two. So I find that a lot of owners, when they get into e-collar training, I don't know if it's because you're like A-type personalities, and I don't mean any offense by that. I wish I was kind of an A-type personality. I feel like maybe my self-discipline would be a little bit better in certain areas, but I also view you all as like really good students. So if you're one of those owners and you get into e-collar training, you feel like everything has to be training. I want you to think about less is more. So if you do an e-collar training session, this is why in the e-collar starter guide, I say 10 minutes, a 10-minute session. And really you can make a big difference if you do one 10-minute session daily in a week or two. You'll see a big difference. We do not have to do 5 sessions a day. It's too much. Dogs don't have that kind of an attention span. I find that 1 to 2 sessions, that I usually do 2 sessions, even though I might be using the e-collar other times during the day. Like if I'm, let's say my schedule, I do a morning active session and then an afternoon active session. I also follow both of those up with place time, and it's usually about an hour, starting at an hour. That's right. I know a lot of you get to like 5 minutes, and if your dog gives you pushback, you're like, okay, well, that's enough. I would highly encourage you to push past those moments and just see. I usually like to try to wait until a dog relaxes a little bit more than before. So it can look like 30 minutes, it can look like an hour and 20 minutes, because I want to let the dog off, not when they're like, walking around or barking or whining. I want to wait until there's like just a little bit of mellowness. I don't know. But so twice a day active session, but I might also be using the e-collar when I let the dog into the backyard to do, I like to do the tap on tone, tap on stem. I talk about this in the e-collar starter guide. It's one of my intro sessions, but it's how I really like to pattern recall with the e-collar. And so I might do that in the backyard. It's an active, quote unquote, active session, but it's also incorporated in something we're going to do bunch of times all day long, which is an outside potty break. So it's not necessarily like I'm setting a timer, coming inside, doing a active place session. It's just something that's added into our daily routine. That's one of my favorite things I've done for my schedule as a trainer is I've added the training into my day, into my everyday habits. I feel like that is sustainable. I don't have a bunch of dogs I'm working with. I think if you're a trainer who has multiple dogs you have to train, it's helpful to have a schedule and like time it out and be like, okay, I'm going to work with Sam at this time and Jake at this time. I don't know. These names I'm loving for dogs, by the way. Jake, that's such a great name. But for those of you who are working with your own dog, 1 to 2 sessions a day, one is really great. And then if you add that place time to that active session, you'll see a big difference. So less is more. You don't have to stress yourself out with doing e-collar training all day long. It's unnecessary. Okay, and the last thing, I've mentioned this before, I'm going to mention it again. It's not like it's so weird. Whenever I mention my resources, still to this day, I think I would get better by now. And I think I've mentioned this before where um, I, I don't ever want to come across as salesy or trying to push my stuff on you. But I also did a podcast episode, one of the trainer mentor sessions where, what was it? From selling to serving, where it's something my dad told me. He was like, just serve your owners or serve. That's one of the biggest things he helped me with when it came to my board and train owners it's so interesting. This is such a side note, but when I first got into dog training, there was a mentality around owners. So when trainers would talk about their owners, or even like a training seminar I went to get into e-collar train, well, yeah, e-collar training, but really board and train training. Um, the mentality around owners was they need to listen to you. If they don't listen to you, it's their fault. And everything was like, I'm right, they're wrong, or they should listen. If they don't follow up, that's their fault. It's on them. And my dad really changed my perspective because he was a sales guy and he would talk about serving his clients. So I remember one thing he would do every year, I think around the holidays, is he would go to this one restaurant and buy a bunch of cheesecakes. And he would deliver a cheesecake to each client. So they were a flooring business, so they would do flooring for, apartment complexes primarily, stuff like that. So he'd go to the apartment complex and to the, I don't know, whoever, a manager person or something, I don't know, whoever he was dealing with, and he would, as a thanks, give them a cheesecake. And I remember him talking to me about, I was talking about owners, and I think at the time, excuse me, I was struggling a little bit with the owner side of things. I was so dog focused, and I didn't realize at the time because I thought, well, you just have to be a really great dog trainer. You have to, if you're an awesome dog trainer and you get your skills really awesome and you can get great results with dogs, then you're going to be successful. But I was struggling because I was missing the owner piece, which is really where all my resources and this and everything I share on Instagram, it is for owners. And he said to me, I don't know exactly, but he was like, just think about serving your owners. And I think in the past, I would have looked at that like, well, shouldn't they like not serve me? But like it just felt like, I felt, isn't that weird? Like, shouldn't it be the opposite? Where ever since that he said that to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. If I just serve the owners and do everything I can to help them resource wise or sharing, uh, in communication with them, or like one time I remember, because it's very easy to get resentful as a trainer. And one time an owner had texted me, I think it was like around 6:30 that day, and their dog was dropped off the day before for the board and train. And he was like, how's it going? And I was like, I immediately thought I got not resentful, but I was like annoyed. Like, well, didn't he see all the things I posted on my Instagram like all day long? Isn't he checking in with that? Isn't that good enough? Like going into this whole defensive mode thing. And I remember telling Bobby, and he was like, well, why don't you text him in the morning to get ahead of it, to let him know how things are going, or um, text him before he texts you. That also changed everything for me, which to some people might seem like, well, the owner shouldn't have texted that. A trainer might say that. Where we are running a business, the owner is the one that I need to help the most. And just little shifts in my mindset with that has made a huge difference. So, serving the owner, doing everything I can to help set that owner up for success, I don't know, I think it's made my business more successful, and it's helped me view owners in a way that makes me excited to work with them. I'm never going to be one of those trainers that bashes owners I work with. The owners I work with, I really enjoy working with. I think that's a side effect of prioritizing the owner in my business. Anyway, okay, but what I was going to say, I still sometimes worry about being salesy, but I really want to help you. And if you are struggling with your dog, you've introduced the e-collar, and you feel like things just aren't going like you would like them to, or you've started working through the reactivity and you're still struggling a bit, sign up for a virtual coaching session with me. They're 30 minutes long. Once I do a virtual coaching session with you, I'm open to helping you afterwards via message too. I always say this to owners I work with through a coaching session. If you're struggling, if you have a question, now that I have talked to you and I know more about you and your situation, feel free to message me on Instagram with questions. Most of the time, if someone sends me a message, I'm going to direct you to the virtual coaching call because I want to be thoughtful in my answer. It just takes so much time to write all the things that I'm thinking that I want to say to you, where talking it out would be much easier. And I do not like voice memos. I'm not a voice memo person because it can be 8 memos long and that's 8 minutes and it's a lot of time. I would rather talk with you in person. quote unquote in person. But if you're struggling and you need extra help, owners and trainers say it all the time. This is a great reassurance call. That's what it feels like. So it could be a trainer if you want to talk through marketing stuff. I love talking about all of those things. Or you have a tough dog you're dealing with. If you want feedback from me, just another perspective. Or if you're an owner who you just need a little extra help, it's $65 for 30 minutes. That paired with our training guides, I think you can go a long way with your dog, but it makes sense to need a little extra help sometimes. Okay, this is a long episode. I hope that it was worth it for you. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, feel free to message me on Instagram if you have any questions or if you listened and it helped you in some way. It would mean so much to me if you let me know. You all really encourage me and inspire me to keep sharing and showing up. And it's not always easy when it's just me and myself and my business, even though I really don't have much to complain about. I'm just grateful that I have a community that I can share with. I remember thinking this when my dad was in the hospital, and it was so weird because when you think about your Instagram community, which is where I think a lot of you come from, because that's primarily where I share stuff, it just feels like Instagram. And I had so many of you reach out to me when he was in the hospital or when, I mentioned that he passed away, and you all were so supportive and kind. And it really felt like an extended family. And I remember saying that to Bobby, like, I'm just so grateful that I have a community where I literally feel supported. And I hate that something awful has to happen for me to feel that way. I'm sure you understand this too. Something awful happens and then it's like everything comes into perspective. But I'm really grateful for you. I'm grateful that you're here and I want to help you. So also, if you have any other ideas about podcasts you would like to hear, I'm totally open to it. Please message me. You're never bothering me. I'm happy to talk with you, and I'm so happy you're here. So if you need any help, I'm going to list our resources in the show notes because I'm not being salesy. I'm serving, right? I'm trying to help, as my dad would say. Okay, till next time.